And it begins for a new week. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Harmonic Pattern Podcast, number 299. Today we're going to have a friend of the show, excellent harmonic pattern person, Lieutenant Ponzi. We'll dial him in a little bit, about 15-20 minutes, and get him in on a little discussion about some harmonic patterns. Obviously, let's talk about Bitcoin. Market's down a little bit today, but not a big deal. Not a big deal. It's actually, I think this is a gift, so let's embrace it as such. What's up, chat? Great to see everybody today. Everyone that's in here, if you're not hooked up with the software, get over to harmonictrader.com. Get your free 2-week trial, especially for TradingView. Get it HPC at sr-analyst.com. Get your free trial there. Become a basic member. All of your resources are on the basic membership. And then happy to share that we've updated MetaTrader and the other platforms, NinjaTrader. So check those out. And, I caught word that a lot of prop trading is going to MetaTrader 5. And MetaTrader 5 we have for Harmonic Pattern Collection, and it's actually excellent. A lot more functionality than the 4. So please do check that out. And let me know. If you have any questions, you can always email me at harmonictrader@gmail.com. So let's get to it. Bitcoin, it's just not doing the straight off blast off run, but we're not surprised. And 4-hour chart looks like this. We talked about the crab off the top from about 2 weeks ago. 61,000 would be the retest there, and it would be a gift. In fact, we said last time, hey, if we got down there, that would truly be an ideal setup. So great to see everybody here coming in. Any folks from Lieutenant Ponzi's crew, welcome. Great to see everyone, especially new people. Great to see everyone. We'll give him a proper introduction in a few moments, and everyone else, especially new folks. Again, get over to Harmonic Trader. And just click that button, register now. Basic member. I did want to show this. And all the resources, everything I talk about, the books, software trials, there's entire videos, all of your resources here. So get caught up to speed, the courses, and then subscribe. And we even have these fantastic cheat sheets you can put on your wall, print them out, all of that kind of stuff, especially stuff like RSI BAM, these kind of things, to look at those illustration visuals over time helps to improve comprehension. Check all of that out as a basic member. That's all free. And get the software. And then, really jump in. Awesome. Great to see you. What's up, Vegas? Alex, Sidiums, Colonel Crypto, Purdy, Miss Stephanie, Greg, and BF, J Togs, Mr. Ken. Beautiful bat. Great to have everybody here. It's going to look, this is now, the party has started, folks. Maybe it didn't start with, the kind of day you wanted to see Bitcoin down 5,000 bucks. No biggie. This is crypto. So let's be aware of that. We know what our setups have been, which continually we're looking for 4-hour patterns, daily oversold triggers for major continuations within the uptrend. And here we go. Bitcoin, I traced out this Gartley. The algos didn't pick it up. So there's probably some alignment issues where it's not perfect textbook Gartley material. Some people ask me, it's like, hey, isn't that a Gartley? Why didn't it pick it up? It's, again, the ratios, especially that B point, probably weren't spot on. Regardless, I'm more focused on this deep crab, and then let's just take a gander, okay, at the big, just the piercing action of being here at the all-time highs and running into some overhead resistance. Let me clean up the chart. Looks like this. And I did want to just kind of highlight a couple of important things. First of all, your real overhead resistance is really needs to take the body down here. So breaking through, what it did just recently was the 886 pop. And that 886 getting, having a little bit of a resistance. Looks like this. There's the 886. So facing a point now, failed resistance becoming support, come back, retest this here, and then get ready to go. That would be okay with me. The big deal on the weekly that I'm watching, again, all of this kind of sets up possible reaction levels, maybe a little bit lower from where we are currently. I don't have a problem with any of this. We get a complex structure here and come out. We're not even out yet. So that hasn't even come out yet. But to a 50 level, and then get the March to break out. Because I still say we're at this 886 consolidation off the all-time high, and we're still, nothing changes, folks. Nothing changes of taking this thing in two chunks, 1618, 1025. We know that. 1025. Okay. I think everyone's just so hyped up because what happened in the first few months, really since November, has been just phenomenal action. Everyone's ready for this thing, primed and ready to go. You're gonna stair step it. Don't worry about it. You understand you're stair stepping your way out of this hole, and this is going to be a big hole that we come out of. And I don't think it's going to be a straight shot deal. But just come back doing natural retracements. Nothing changes that. And I think the same goes for all the big ones. I mean, Ethereum, back testing here, the same deal. It's just kind of pausing. Ethereum actually has a lot more digestion to do with the kind of move it did since really September, but then doubling from in the last 6 weeks. That's what you're seeing here. It just kind of retracement phase. There you go. Not a biggie. I will say some of the things I've been mentioning about Fetch AI, and I'm really bouncing here left to right of I've expressed this in recent weeks, and so you get a little bit of a pullback. I think days like today, where you say, oh, okay, my crypto's down 10% today, a little punch in the gut. This is why when we go 10x, we should be thinking about taking profits. And I really think that, this is the trader side of me where I'm saying this is amazing action. It already has been amazing action. I think sometimes maybe you younger folks take it for granted because especially those guys that are just entered in on crypto and mostly all is the crypto boom and bust cycles. But along the way, no matter what the prognostication is for anything, something goes up 5x, 10x, your brain has to turn on and say, all right, I got to pull something off of here if it's 20%, 30%, something like that. But it's all good, within a longer term context. The halving is still 3 weeks away, and we know that the disproportionate gains come after then, so settle in. Really, it's been kind of a long road since last year to get to this point, and now you're hoping for a retracement. We want to see a pullback within in a lot of the big markets, and we kind of switch back here, talk about big. Bitcoin Cash, I think, is something I mentioned recently. Really interesting dynamics here coming up. You've got a whole bunch of levels up here, 730, 720 to 880 to retest that big pattern. Also, we haven't really rolled out, despite Bitcoin Cash even giving you a 10% correction just in the last 48 hours, there are no major signals on the daily or weekly just yet. Well, there was something interesting on the 4-hour for Bitcoin Cash that I'm watching. Beautiful crab, but check out what happened. High level HSI. So that might be it on Bitcoin Cash, where I'm still targeting this 727.30. Of course, it has its own halving coming up, and I don't think people are paying enough attention to that or to Litecoin. Those are interesting vehicles that will benefit with what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Litecoin itself looks like this. There you go. Oh, give me this here. There you go. Has to get above 115, okay? Sitting here, software's kicking out some patterns on the 4-hour. Daily's probably good to look at as well, because we have this bat, hitting up against the hop level of the bat that's been calculated off of that kind of intermediate point. You could go off of 2 spots, really. I think it's excellent for everyone to learn. Oops, sorry, here we go. Everyone to learn the dynamics by hand. But one of the advantages with the software, it's showing you where the exact algorithms match up in terms of the market movements within really strict tolerances. I think I mentioned this last time also, of just, when you see that kind of intermediate pattern, I like to call them, software kicks it off of here and not that high. Why? Well, it really has a lot to do with the B point and the other metrics that comprise and converge at that 886. But it still works out ideally, hop level 105, type 1, type 2, everything, the way that the harmonics unfold, reaction reversal, relative to those measurements is as important. And we see that there. So a bunch of levels here on Litecoin, 105, 113. And, let it do some more consolidation, fine. But the big event that's coming that I think everyone should be aware of is simple fact, Litecoin just primed and ready for, why not another cycle move for the all-time 886. Okay, just like 20 up to 22, and then even better, 8, 6, 17 to up to 16 to 17. Easily could see yet another big thrust and just trace it out. Okay, I've said this many times. Look, there's an 886. It's going to be an important metric when this cycle and the bull run really gets going, and these things are flying. You're going to want to be looking at these 886 levels as a maximum objective, especially if they skyrocket like that, go parabolic, and then run right into the 886 and can't get through. That's how we'll know. But that's a heck of a move for Litecoin from current levels, and I think they're just lining up ideally, showing you some really encouraging signs. So bang, get ready. Speaking about getting ready, let me check, see if he's in here. Get him over there. See if we can bring him into the chat here for a second and get ready. Okay, good. I think he's there. Let me give him a little heads up. Ready, and 3 men. Okay. Now, before I bring in Lieutenant Ponzi, I want to just a quick gander here. NASDAQ, just for you folks here, we got major 5-minute HSI stuff down here, but the big deal on where we are with the NASDAQ today, the Qs, we had this crab within that channel, and we came all the way to T2, 18,274. Now, what's HSI doing? Oversold. Markets are deeply oversold at the moment, but you're getting close. So another opportunity coming. Another opportunity, and I would think that let this thing wash out. Come on in. Settle out. It might be, 2 more bars. Might be 2 more 4-hour bars where we wrap it up into tomorrow, but we got to get down and then pivot out, get you some kind of signal, and then this should start the return phase probably in the next, I would say, by the end of the week. Remember, earnings start next week in full. So a little profit taking, sell it off. As I've said in the last few sessions, not a heck of a lot to trade on recently. So hence the kind of lackluster action. You've been sideways really since, I would say, February, mid-February, end of February here, March. Not bad. But nothing changes on all of this. And the same for S&P. The ES is similar deal. Just in this trend, it continues. Hold on. Let me get you. Where are we doing here? There you go. Regression channel. I mean, beautiful. That was a type 2 on the deep crab, right on the 4-hour. Okay. But still in that cycle. Still in this trend channel with target 2 as low as 52.27. Waiting on HSI to confirm. We've gone deep oversold. So like I said, this is going to be a few more bars down here. But it's a lot like what we saw. Look how deep this trigger was back in mid-February, like down there. And that was at 5,000. So a lot of things setting up. Really not too concerned. Let this thing fall to you, and then we'll jump on the next round of opportunity to come. Not a biggie. So let me give me 1 second, folks. I'm going to test it. Hold on. Let me bring him in here. 1 moment. Hold on. I'm going to mute dial. All right. Let's see. I'm going to get him in here. Hey, Lieutenant. You're mute. Can you hear me? Yes, Mr. Ponzi. What's up? The Ponz. Hold on. Let me bring him in. Everybody. Big shout out for Lieutenant Ponzi. Lieutenant Ponzi, please say hello to the crew.
Hey everybody, how are you all doing today? Excited to be here.
All right, thanks so much for being here. Great, awesome. You guys, how's the sound? Everybody, we good? You guys can hear him. Just give me a little action in the chat. Great, little hype, Ponzi hype, everybody. Now, before I go any further, just a 2-minute little background on meeting him, and it's just there's a whole bunch of great folks on Twitter doing harmonic pattern stuff, and for me, it's really a dream. And I definitely want to say that because it's to see where this has gone, just how things have progressed through the literally decades. I mean, it's like blows my mind. It's been decades now. To say decade, I like to say years. No, it's been decades. Really, this stuff started in late '90s, and it's been, if it's had different for me, the harmonic pattern community has definitely evolved. It's evolved into what I think is one of the best, brightest technical communities out there of any approach. Let me direct everyone over to Ponzi's Twitter feed, and we're just going to stick with his Twitter handle today. I think he's got ideas and wants to, maybe later introduce himself in a more personal way on his own, and I totally respect that. But you can reach him on Twitter, on X, sorry, Elon, Lieutenant Ponzi right there. And he's one of a few folks that I've encountered on Twitter doing harmonic patterns, and he has definitely pointed me. So I would say really since last summer, I think I reached out to you, and you caught my attention with a lot of the things that he was posting, and a lot of the charts and patterns, that crypto that I wasn't, that I was not really looking for, and just he was on it. Stuff like SEI and DYM, JUP, those second generation, the new generation crypto. I like to say, shout out to him because he not only knew the patterns, but he was putting up stuff on crypto that ended up working out incredibly well, and got me into more than just last cycle's crypto. So definitely check him out, and I'd love to get his thoughts on what he thinks is to come on this cycle. I actually have a couple of questions I want to share with you. I'm just get a
Sounds good.
chart of Bitcoin up and let you riff for a little while. I mean, here we go. Only down 4,200 now, but we got a real nice. Let me blow up this chart. I'm just all focused on. We have a big crab pattern. Like if we get to 61 or a 60 retest, I think that's a gift, and definitely want to hear what how you're thinking about this cycle. But before we do that, let's let me just get a couple general questions because I know Ponzi's a little bit younger than myself, and I'm always interested to learn about really intelligent folks that are younger than me to get in tune with really what's happening. What you guys are looking at, what folks your age are really all about, and even your market journey. So let's start there. And why don't you tell and share with the folks, how did you first get into the markets, and get into charts and stuff like that?
Sounds good. So yeah, hey everybody. My name's Lieutenant Ponzi on Twitter here, or you could just call me Nick. From Florida as well, and just a little background. Growing up, I did grow up next door to my grandfather, who was a big stock investor, and he traded as well when he was young. So I kind of picked up things as I was growing up. I originally went into healthcare, but from there, I kind of realized the world revolves around money, even healthcare. So once I had that realization, I started digging into stock investing when I was still in college, and just basically investing until one day, once I had graduated college, one of my buddies was still in college at the time, and I still lived around there. And we were at a dinner table, and he introduced me to crypto in around 2017 on one of those first runs up when I got in, and then watched it all crash back down. But from there, I was kind of hooked. And that's when I really started digging into crypto and started trading in those few couple years after that to come, and started really investing and trading into crypto as well as the stock market at the time. And that's when all things kept leading to trying to define my system. And then a few years ago, I was learning trading and with a few people and still studying. And somebody was doing harmonics, and I was watching them do the harmonics and find exact reversal points, but also having like a framework around their system. So that's what intrigued me to buy his Scott's books here off Amazon and really dig into it and learn it myself. And ultimately learning more and about the harmonic patterns than the guy that was helping me in the first place, because he did not really delve into the books. So took it really technical and started reading them and learning the patterns my own on that. So that's what really introduced me into trading.
So you weren't looking at, were you looking at any charts on that first cycle? Did you know any technicals, or just, you were just looking at, you know,
Yeah, so I was one of my buddies had been trading crypto for a while, and he trades like price action. So he was just teaching me like regular price action trading, looking for sweeps and stuff like that, divergences, just some of the basics. And he used moving averages a lot and everything. But I needed something that put a little more framework on it. So that's where harmonics ultimately led me to.
was that starting with like Fibonacci, or just looking at
Yep.
retracements?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I used Fibonacci too. And then once the guy that traded harmonics basically said, using Fibonacci, he said harmonics are using it in a wave sequence and finds like more exact reversal points. That's kind of what sold me on it to really look into it after watching him hit trade after trade.
Now, did you have a preference, or did you find that it was working better in certain coins? Were you looking more like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or were you looking at more like the T coins, lower coins, speculative? What did you kind of find yourself attracted to?
So I started it with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Those were my two main ones, and Chainlink a lot when I was first trading back then. But when I really delve into harmonics, I was just trying them on all coins in different time frames. And some of my favorite ones, obviously, the higher time frame ones work better for reversals in the market in general. But going down to like the 4 hour is kind of like my sweet spot, especially in a bull run or even in the bear market. Finding some of those 4 hour and daily harmonics have actually like marked the bottom on a lot of these.
Yeah, we had those classic. So Bitcoin, the last cycle, and I mentioned this last time. We had these massive, and I'm showing them right now, weekly back-to-back patterns. I mean, this was like the just was for me kind of just screamed to me of like, get my full attention on crypto, where I had a passing interest and was, starting to get into it around 17, not taking it seriously enough. And then, for me, this is all about the patterns, the trading cycles, the speculative end of it. I'm not necessarily a fundamental guy myself, but the market action has been undeniable. And the harmonics were, I never seen harmonics work and stick out like they were on to this degree on, that's weeklies. And then you had the daily levels and daily turning points that, you go back to that cycle, as Nick was referencing, you had, let's just go back to the 2020 era. You had some really interesting patterns along the way where if you saw that, um, almost didn't overthink it too much. A lot of the patterns were just spot on with, at the level, at the lows, and use that as the framework of, understanding, okay, where is all of this buying and selling, supply demand going to pivot, and that, the dailies or the weeklies were really strong. And then once you took off and you really busted through, look at the daily here. This is actually kind of classic to where we are now, where there was the 886. 886 of the 2020 cycle, from the 2017 cycle. It hit the 886, the all-time high, and then spent 2-3 weeks up there oscillating before the big breakout. And that's I think despite that, you had a few other retracement opportunities along the way. What was the big score for you? Was there one or two coins that were a big score last cycle for you that were
Yeah,
sticking out?
so my favorite one last cycle going into the cycle was Chainlink. That's where I
Ooh.
invested a lot of money, like sub $2, and I just when it was back in the cycle back then, I just kept putting money into Chainlink at the time. I was very convicted on it, and what they were looking to do, and I mean that thing ran up to like 50, $60 that cycle. I think I did get out a little bit earlier than that. It was a lot of money at the time. I was investing everything I had into Chainlink that I had spare. I would do like 80%, 90% Chainlink, and then 10% some other coins I had some conviction in. But yeah, back down in like 2019, 2020 area on Chainlink is when I was basically putting everything in just in spot while I was learning. Maybe a small percentage I was trying to trade a little bit more back then, when ultimately it probably should have just all been into just buying and holding it, but it really helped develop me and just giving me time on the screens.
Yeah, nice, real nice. Chainlink. It's funny how some people talk about certain crypto, um, with a higher reverence. Chainlink seems to be one of those where people, talk about use case, and honestly, I don't really know what Chainlink's use case is, but if people who are really knowledgeable, and there's some people that are knowledgeable I follow on Twitter, they're talking about certain projects and stuff. Um, that's good enough for me because then I still want to see patterns, triggers, opportunities. But yeah, there's Chainlink, uh, from the 2020 cycle with amazingly, that thing started the cycle. What was that? Like 20, 30 cents. It went to 18 bucks, came all the way back, gave you a bat pattern after doing a 60% correction, and then did another, oh my goodness, another 5x off of that. So, great one. And yeah, that kind of reminds me of, maybe a less of a use case, but my experience with Doge last cycle. All the same things. I was trading it more so than could have held and been more of a monster winner than it was. But I think definite takeaways with what we're looking at going forward. The fact that we're still going to get beautiful pattern setups along the way. We're going to get retracements. I mean, today another retracement, but waiting for those patterns. And and that's something else. Where did you find yourself getting more technical as you went along, as things like progressed through that last cycle, where you were shedding maybe some strategies or going pure price action? Or
Yeah,
how did you change as a trader from the beginning, other than getting a lot wealthier? How did you change from in your mental process as a trader from the beginning there to the end a year or two later?
yeah, it's perfect. So I've always been super analytical. So I do usually research what the coins do. But my only issue was, okay, now I know what they do. Where do I sell them? Where do I take profit? So that led me into getting more analytical and wanting to have a framework on taking profits and risk management, which the harmonics ultimately gave me, and being able to trade with them. So that's what kind of made me delve into the harmonic patterns, was just being able to find reversal points where, okay, maybe I should take some profits off instead of just holding this. No matter how much I believe in this coin, there's going to be areas where people need to take profits. And that really helped me with using just Fibonacci in general for extensions and harmonics to figure those areas out.
It's really, I'm looking, I just posted for people off of that bat pattern on Chainlink, and I'm seeing this a lot, and I'm trying to lay out in advance possible extreme extensions of what we might consider for going forward in this cycle. But we have a really beautiful 314, 3618 range that basically nailed the top for Chainlink. And it's going to be the real prime measurement that I use. And I'm going to emphasize that if we do discernible 3618s or 314s of the last cycle, or any of these that have big patterns, and then they make an extended run like that, from the harmonic pattern framework, um, yeah, you could always miss out, but by definition, you get to a 314 pi projection, it really is, defines kind of the natural limit. And that doesn't mean it can't keep going on. But as a trader, and I stress this to folks, we've looked at some possible projections on Ethereum or Bitcoin, and maybe we'll do it here in a few moments on what, your thoughts on some of these measurements. But we are adhering to a framework. And again, I've been talking to Ponzi a little bit more recently, and the whole framework guide model, so you understand where you are, like he said, to have an idea of when it goes too far too fast, is many times defined by just very clear extreme projections. And those are, that range is 2618, 314, 3618. Those set up the type of moves where, beyond those levels, they are not sustainable. So you look for reversal signs, confirmation of overbought, and I don't think this cycle really is going to be much different than previous cycles. We might not get to a 3618, but 2618, 314, something like that. Maybe we'll look at that in a second. I want to give you one or two more share with the crew here, just because this guy is really doing it. And I know I talk a lot, folks, about the realities of trading, but I like, and I really want to do this more of sharing other people's learning curve so you folks can learn. I mean, Ponzi's a guy he's already been tested. He's been through it. He's a younger guy, but I consider him ahead of the game in terms of not only his knowledge, but the effort. We talked about that, the effort required, and that everyone really should be sharpening their knives, getting ready for what's happening currently. And then especially you as a younger guy, he's on with his career. As he shared with you, he was working in the corporate world. But yes, especially in today's age, everyone, either through their personal trading or 401ks, everyone, no matter what industry you are in, eventually have to get into the market and learn about it, if it's for retirement purposes, extra income, what have you. And I'm just, want to share his thoughts, or have him share his thoughts with you on, you know, so you guys get a feel that, a little boost, a little more confidence. Like, hey, I'm not just doing it, or your friend is not doing it. We've got other people doing it. And so, what would you like to share with people? Like, what was like the big breakthrough lesson you learned that you feel kind of changed the game for you in your thinking personally? Was there a moment? Was it a general evolution?
So there was a couple things. One, the main factor just being is the older you get, you realize the world revolves around money, and you can only make so much in the corporate world unless you own your own company. But also, there's ways to make money to multiply your income, and that can be through trading or investing. And I mean, I've watched it firsthand with my grandfather. I mean, he was in the Air Force and he turned a little bit of money into a lot, investing in like Apple and Microsoft and some of these things early. So just being able to see those things that can change your life monetarily, and not only that, your friends and families. So that's kind of what drove me to push to get to better at this and continue to get better at it, and help teach some other people along the way of things I'm finding that's working that can help better them. That's one thing, or one reason I do like crypto for the most part in stock trading in general. The people that are doing it are trying to make more money to better their lives. So that's something that I really like about the space. And that's also inclined me to continue trying to get better at it.
Yeah, you know what, I like that about the younger crew. Um, I admire the crypto community in terms of their willingness to help each other. You know, I've benefited personally from the folks that are in here, or the people that are in the Discord, and have been very helpful. And honestly, I'm sorry, but I came into an industry where everyone was trying to steal your idea. The older guys were, you know, very close to the hip on everything. I was very fortunate myself. I really encountered a few people who kind of became my mentor. You know, well-known famous technicians. I hooked in. This is like mid '90s. I hooked in with the Market Technicians Association and the American Association of Professional Technical Analysis. That they were a couple of those guys were really supportive, but in general, there was not a community. It was just not as welcoming, and so I think everyone has a real opportunity, you know, to step in. Doesn't matter what you do, who you are, where you come from. There is equal access. It's really on you to be able to do the work and learn what you need to know. Realize, look, this is a life pursuit, and you're gaining knowledge over the years. But it also is something where the markets in general have become more important than ever before. It's been amazing to watch. It started. You'll get a kick out of this, where you know my first trade was calling up the broker, paying commission for 100 shares of Charles Schwab, and then you know hoping I can catch the data, see the update of the trade during the day on the CNBC clicker, because we didn't even have the data. We didn't have
That's
it.
awesome.
We didn't even have the internet. You know, I had the Value Line Investment Survey, which was a big magazine book of company information, but um, the internet, and then crypto for your younger generation has really brought together an amazing, I think, a vibe. Of course, there's the trolls, and you've got the
Yeah.
bad actors, but in general, I do think that the one defining aspect of success in today's markets, people like yourself, is willing to do the work and following through to do the work, and then the amount that you share with folks, I think is a great service in general, of encouragement and accurate information that you know just kind of boosts the vibe. You know, you really just create a great community, and everyone does benefit. So it's amazing that this has really kind of transpired, and then people like you, um, for me, you know, I think people have to understand that um, some of the ideas that I rolled out way back when were scoffed at. They were kind of like, "Oh, numerology. Oh my gosh, you know, does that really
Yeah.
work? Did you talk to your tarot reader lately?" Um, and you know, they misunderstood that this was a technically measuring levels that manifested themselves throughout nature. And the younger crowd has definitely, you know, they've been more open to it. the older crowd when they saw harmonic patterns, and I mean, a lot of top people were catching on to what I was doing. I'll just share this, something for me personally that was like really an amazing thing. I had just started. This was like 1997. Started putting out some patterns to a group of traders on an email list. And one day I got an email from John Murphy. John Murphy, technical analysis. His partner Greg Morris is a friend of mine, Murphy Morris. But John Murphy was always on CNBC, and he's like, "Hey, I'd like to be on your list. I'm very interested in what you're doing." And it was, um, I just blew me away, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, the naysayers, they're going to always say whatever, but a guy like John Murphy's interested in this stuff." So it was, that kind of slow evolution acceptance, but now we see it to where it is today. And then mixing it with crypto, which is like a dream. Never thought we would, in my life, I never thought we would see a new asset category like this, but it has put harmonic patterns on steroids, and I really look forward to seeing where it
It's
goes.
they bounce like crazy sometimes off these harmonics too. I know we were talking this weekend, and you were talking about how you're trading the .com bubble with some of these patterns, and you would get 2 to 3x. And I think me being part of this younger generation as well, we do take it for granted. But 2 3x you said was a lot back then off these patterns. We're seeing things like FET do like 10x's off some of the Gartleys that we have down there, and Render and some of these. So I don't know if you maybe if you could share just like how that like changed like your perspective on crypto, because this market is very very crazy if you can take advantage of it and have a good framework. And that's one thing that I'm trying not to take for granted for because it is so new. But at the same time, it's basically all I knew other than a couple years of stocks when I was trading. So I really like this asset class that it has an abundance of opportunity if you can play it right. But
I
that's
it,
why this. Oh, sorry. You.
No, 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 no. It's perfect. Here's and with Fetch AI it's one of the ones probably the best one. FET Fetch AI. If you go back to our streams, we were literally. I'll have to go back myself. Literally the day it hit 17.5 cents as the Type 2 for the bat that set that off for a 20x or 18x, whatever, within the year. 20 cents to $3, folks. 350 is a hell of a move. I mean, maybe you get that in options, on a good option, but it's just not as smooth as what you're seeing here. And yeah, it is patterns like that. It was the patterns, the Bitcoin patterns, 2017 to 2020, those double patterns. And then a lot of people talking about this as a legitimate asset category because some of the older folks that I was communicating with in the last decade, they nobody wanted to touch it. No one wanted to even go near Bitcoin. It's a Ponzi. It's this and that, and maybe, but isn't it all a Ponzi in one way or another? Because we're all reliant on the last buyer of what they're willing to pay. And then I saw it as a look. Not only is it a functioning market and asset category, but I believe one of the reasons why the patterns work so well is because one, you don't have big institutions altering, I won't say manipulating, but influencing action. You have a more natural, cyclical, if not emotional, a group of buyers and sellers here. And when we see this, the way I call this, this kind of natural, when the markets mimic natural growth cycles, that's called phyllotaxis in nature, and you see that in plants where the flowers they grow 1.618 or the Nautilus shell grows 1.618 greater than the prior loop or the prior growth cycle. That there's a natural relationship there, and it's expressed more and more, I think, with crypto, where that what I call market phyllotaxis price action, when it adheres to that model, and it does, and we just we don't really need to explain the why other than understanding and developing a confidence in, okay, yeah, the patterns are responding, and not only they're responding, but they're responding in a way where the type 1, the reaction reversal framework, and that's something that took me years to understand about the patterns. I mean, this is with Fetch AI to hit the pattern, stabilize, and then start to turn around to go to target. Okay, I understood that pretty early on, but the fact that there was a reactive component and then a retest component, there's some standard technical analysis within that, but at the levels and with the degree which it's doing it in crypto, it just became more prevalent, and I still rely on that type 1 type 2 framework. I'm looking for type 2s, to really set up the larger explosions like Fetch and a few others, that look, you just kind of go with it with the markets in the same way. You could say, all right, the markets are overvalued and it's fake money, and endless printer goes burr. um, I need to justify that it's in some way this is a good thing. It doesn't matter. You just go with it as a trader. We're here to speculate, put ourselves in line with the framework, and capture moves like Fetch, and doesn't even need to be as big as Fetch, but it has a .com feel to it. This was really, when Amazon, and Amazon was a $5 or $10 billion company, and some of those others before making the big run, they scoffed at the .coms as well. Uh, so understand that markets have been here before, but this is a new phase. Just my final thought of why crypto is what it is because it takes away the IPO stage of many stocks, where the premium that would typically go to the public or could go to the public was essentially hoovered up by all the investment banks in their pre-allocations, and then the public's left for scraps. So at least with this, your younger generation is getting screwed in many ways, but I think this is definitely one market where it is going to benefit your generation, and I think this is your .com. This is your .com market for you guys.
Yep. Even I know, going back a little bit with the type twos you were saying, when first learning harmonics, the guy I was learning from did not really delve into the type twos. And once I did that, I started to understand more of like the natural flow of the markets, not just, okay, it hit the XA, get long on it. You got to let it develop, especially on the higher time frames, and just letting the trade develop before. I think that was a big learning curve when I first started, because I wasn't taught that. I was taught kind of like just like street knowledge on harmonics, learning from somebody, until I finally found the books and delved into them and started watching your streams and everything too. But just being able to watch them develop too, with the market is fantastic. The type twos, and I'm seeing them all across the board all the time. And they've really helped. And sometimes you'll even get a small pattern within a type two.
Yeah, the back-to-back patterns are great. Absolutely, those are all. There was the harmonic pattern thing has really come in kind of two waves. The first wave was introductory until, that was like 97, 98, release some ideas. First the Harmonic Trader book, that first book, and then a couple other subsequent books really into the early 2000s. And then up until about the end of the 2008, 2009, I had backed off because I did get a registered investment advisor license, and they told me, all right, you can't do harmonic pattern stuff anymore. But then they changed the rules on the investment advisory to where it wasn't going to work for me. I had too much in public. They wanted me to try to scrub everything off the web, and it just became a nightmare. So after that, I took a little time off, left the country for 2 years, and just it was like a really good break. Unfortunately, while I was kind of like just away for not doing much for 2 years, others jumped on it, and other marketers jumped on it, and they said, oh yeah, these patterns are magic, and yeah, oh, we created them. And you get right there and you buy it right at that point. When I never said that. I mean, I always said, look, patterns are a signpost of future price action and require other elements to be a trade. And then the reaction reversal concepts too were other things where when I put out volume 3 in 2016, and we had this software about the same time, really advanced it for people to get away from it was misinformation, but the folks that are willing to really do the work, like yourself and people here, um, look, that's what it takes. That's why if you're willing just to go a little deeper, you discover, the whole kind of gamut of strategies that then open it up. Where here's fetch, and exactly to what Ponzi's been saying, there's a development. It's a process. The patterns are a process. The reversal reaction's a process, and understanding that, okay, reaction phase. Okay, now here with the retest, that's where I seriously have larger potential to not only go to target two in most cases, any market, any time, but with what we know with crypto, say, okay, if crypto is supposed to do remarkable things, well, yeah, let's hit the type twos weekly with confirmation and ride them to at least target two. And if they become something much larger, bang, you're in it. And the patterns for me have always kind of put me at a point where I don't get into too much trouble. If I'm wrong, I know it pretty quickly. But if I'm right, you see those signs. I just think Fetch AI had everything that you'd want to see in any setup, even though it took months, because here was the type 2, and you went from May until November until you really took off. But understanding that, yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't take much, just a few examples. So,
That was like a perfect example for me because you have the bat, and then even right there where you zoomed in. I know your stream's a little delayed on my end, but there was a Gartley there that I hand drew um, on that type two that hit that, and it had a little Wyckoff accumulation at the D point or the XA. So that's kind of what sold me on FET. And then you had Chat GPT come out with AI, and this was like the leading AI coin. So kind of all just lined up. And then looking back at it, it's like technically it was beautiful.
yeah, here's your daily Gartley on that retest was a smaller pattern inside the daily, inside the weekly. It really it you don't need too many of these, and I think that's also something where maybe you've learned. You mentioned it earlier of being more selective or trying to let the winners run more, because it only takes a few of these patterns positioned right, especially with crypto. And is the reason why I say get your patterns looking left so that you have a launch pad. That's exactly it. Um, Let me kind of shift it back over to Bitcoin here for a second. Love to hear your independent thoughts, consideration on what you think Bitcoin will do in general. Of kind of how do you see Bitcoin in the next decade? as a financial trading market and instrument. And what do you think it's going to do on this cycle? Like let's start with this cycle. What are your thoughts on when I say
Yeah.
1618 at 102,000? What do you think of that
Yeah,
weekly?
so I think that's the next target in my eyes. I'm looking at that, and then around I think it was 83. I was looking for an ABCD from the low that we had. We came down to around a 786, so I was looking at like a 1272, which is around 80 some thousand, where we might hit a little turbulence. But I think ultimately the 1025, I think it is for the 1618 is the next target if we can remain above $60,000. Um, Ideally, I mean, we're breaking past the high, and historically, once we've done that, we we have melted up. The only thing that is a little confusing this cycle is with the ETF inflow. You have more spot buy-in, and we've never broke past the 618 like we did and held above it in previous cycles prior to the halvening, which we have done this cycle. So it did catch me off guard a little bit, but I started it in like 2020. But yeah,
Okay, yeah, off the COVID low.
yeah, somewhere like that I was looking at for maybe one of the first um, areas of interest for me. But also the 1025 is ultimately what I think we're going to tap where we're at now. But I was maybe seeing if we are going to get like a little pause there before we continue up, or if we're just going to go up. But I think if we're above 60, I think we're looking pretty good.
Yeah, and I been showing folks um the 4 hour time frame. You mentioned you really like that. Software is kicking out a really nice crab pattern off the top where if this is just reactive kind of retracement noise 61, um and we're already 65. If you came back to 61 and retested that, it would be ideal. It really it would be an ideal 4 hour setup within this uptrend. So I'm not, if it's 65 or even got to 57, I don't I'm not too concerned because I agree with you. Those minimums would go back to, let me go even the monthly chart because I think there is really good symmetry there of looking at this. I would be inclined to take that ABCD off of like the 19 low, just
Uh-huh.
a little bit better, but it, you know, you get the ballpark pretty much the same where if that's off the 19 low, if that's a 786, then and this works, by the way. This would give you a 127. Now, I've mentioned this before. This is something, this whole ABCD thing, long-term cycle. I spotted it as a phenomenon on long-term charts at the end of the .com cycle. There were a lot of these fluff.com stocks that had beautiful all-time ABCDs like that, or they were IPOs and they came out of the gate and they formed this perfect ABCD. And for me, I was looking at that, and you know, I just really, I guess like 97, 98, it was a lot of ABCD, not so much even the complex stuff. But I was saying, if this stuff works and the ABCD is a legitimate target, then, you know, we're here and we still need to get up to here. And I think Bitcoin with this ABCD structure and a 127 extension minimum, you know, we're just poking out of the all-time high. These are really, I think they're minimum objectives. I don't even, I wouldn't consider it a harmonic market unless it did get up there. And so, you know, I like that. I haven't mentioned that 127 at 83 or 84,000, but I agree with that. If,
Yeah,
call,
I still think the 1618 is the target, but that was just like a minimum that I'm looking at for a minimum for the high. I'm not too sure 100% on any projection for a high where it's going to be versus more of like a time based with crypto, um, based on measuring the days and the cycles on how long it lasted last cycle and everything. Because it's been pretty cyclical, but at the same time, I'm just gonna just play it by ear and look for weakness, or if I'm up enough where I feel like I am, just take profits off the table. But I think that's a minimum for where my target would be, and then the 1025 next.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've been saying all along, I think that Bitcoin is, the focus. You had a lot of those ICOs last cycle, really emergence of Ethereum, and then, other things like Bitcoin Cash, others have really popped off. Um, of course, we've got AI coins this cycle, but in terms of sheer dollar volume, this is a Bitcoin story. And so, Bitcoin's going to be up. You're going to get sympathy in the alts. Bitcoin down, same kind of a deal. I still think Ethereum was. It feels to me. What do you think? It feels to me Ethereum was regarded 4 years ago or even further as possibly supplanting Bitcoin, but I don't, probably not happening now.
Yeah, I think they did, but I don't think it will. I mean, you have the ETF inflow right now, and you have Ethereum and some of the other majors like consolidating right below all time high, while you have BTC that just went above all time high. So I think we're waiting for after the halving before we see a little bit more risk on, where we go into price discovery with a lot of things that haven't. But I don't see Ethereum overtaking Bitcoin, to be honest, especially with some of the. I think Ethereum overall is going to stay just because it's an attention economy and there's so many things built on Ethereum. But I don't see it overtaking Bitcoin because people are actually building stuff on the Bitcoin ecosystem now and the blockchain now with the BRCs, which is just new this cycle for the most part. People are building on Bitcoin with like the token STX. I know you've charted it a few times,
Mm-hmm.
um, and some other things. So I don't see Ethereum overtaking Bitcoin. And then even Solana surprised me with how much it's gone up this cycle, but it's faster and cheaper. And there's a lot of things being built on that as well as a blockchain as a whole.
There's beautiful patterns in Solana. I was gonna just ask you about that. What
It's
what you thought about
so
that?
picture perfect with Solana. The Solana patterns at the bottom were beautiful. There was even one down at $12, and
Yeah.
then you have the weekly one that it came up and it hit the TP1 there at it was like 140 ish.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and then from there, I mean, we're looking at 238 next.
Yeah. Yeah. Really nice. And that was a huge one. I probably should have been focusing more on that one. I was looking at this one. It was like again, we have this issue with the data feeds, but it was a bat at 40. But then the shark was a better fit and a larger pattern, depending on your data feed, of course. But um, it's done what it should do. If this was a 5 minute pattern, crypto going to a target too, really common. And I was looking at this a couple months ago, I was saying, all right, after we hit 122 on the bat, could we do the type two? And it only spent a couple of weeks and started going back up. I was like, no, let's look for this larger move. The only question for me is that I don't know if you saw that piece on Solana months ago where they said it would go to 3,000 and it was only at $20. It was a total
I
rig
know.
job.
I saw that too.
You did. Where did that, like? Uh,
I'm not 100% where it came from. I remember reading it like briefly, but I mean, it has been really impressive. If it if it went to 3,000, I mean, if you go back and look at just like a fractal, and I don't like using fractals too much, but if you look at like Ethereum in the previous cycle, it does kind of look like Ethereum, and it's going on kind of the same trajectory. But I don't know, 3,000 is a lot for this. I
yeah.
will be completely out before that.
It started to move though. I mean, it wasn't. It was like days after that it started going crazy, and I'm just like, really, people are jumping on that. But here's Ethereum last cycle, and it's something where when I see this happening over and over again, it almost 3618 to the dot, and I think we can learn a lot from prior cycles, even though there haven't been too many of them. But the fact, from a harmonic perspective, many of these have gotten to 3618s, and that's it. And then lights out is a huge sign, and should be a part of everyone's consideration as we get towards the end of the year. Things start skyrocketing. It could be, your basic altcoin, or maybe a Solana or whatever. That if they get up there, 314, 3618, that's about the limit for now that the world is going to give you in this instance. It's not, even if Bitcoin someday goes to 1 million, it will do a 314, 3618, and another 618 pullback where you're going to be fluctuating tens of thousands of points and tens of thousands of dollars in those swings. And I the way things are playing out and the rationale behind Bitcoin, the kind of the anti-Fed sentiment that Bitcoin can basically be a tremendous inflation hedge, which, believe me, is a real deal. And for your generation, and like my son's generation, I can't think about, I can't imagine the price, the if inflation continues even on this, at this rate. We're 4 or 5% generally. We've been very low for the last more than decade of, sub 3% inflation, but it will emerge as a serious issue in terms of lack of purchasing power. And it's something where these vehicles, and especially the way crypto is designed, do give you an advantage. And I think Bitcoin, with the limited supply and all the Bitcoin that's missing as well, that will never be recovered, there are real advantages there. Those kind of things on a fundamental basis. Yeah, I want to know more about, because what we saw, and you folks need to know, this is a different market since the financial crisis of 2008. There was, you know, markets were always been raging, 80s, 90s, 2000s, but the notion that to me, 2008, 2009 was a lot like the 74 market when United States went off the gold standard, okay, created this, the true beginning of the dollar debasement. It was, a QE attitude, which was like next level money printing, dollar debasement that went straight into asset prices. And a lot of what we see, and people don't understand this, that the prices are really related to that, the just the printing of money. And people don't understand it until it's like too late. And they're working and working, and then before they know it, the price of their rent is like 40% of their income. It's absurd. It's absurd, but it's a sign of the times. It's not anything we can fix. Believe me, none of us are going to be able to fix these issues. It's only on how we can respond to them and profit from the way this game has been set up for everyone. And that's, for me, that is an interesting aspect of this Bitcoin phenomenon, that it has discernible metrics to it. I'm going to switch back the chart. It's a growing entity. It's a limited supply. So if they can keep the demand constant, even just where it is now, or even with slight growth over the next few years, the way that the pricing mechanism works with this kind of an asset will drive it considerably higher. And I say that where when I think about like Apple at $10 a share when Bill Gates or when Steve Jobs was like, when they were on teetering on the edge. I mean, a lot of people don't remember like Apple was teetering on the edge. Bill Gates comes in, gives them a mere $100 million, and then they survive and produce the iPhone, and off the races they go. Or even Microsoft, which was $20 a share at the low, the .com, and then does 10x, 15x plus dividends, split adjustments. So what I'm saying here is that generationally, into the next 5, 10, 15 years, especially into the end of the decade, I've been saying this to my folks for a while. A lot of the moves, a lot of the things we're considering now really should have that type of thought process of, okay, not only where we're going to be next year, but where are we headed for the next 5? And it's something when I got into the markets in the mid 90s, and I'm going to date myself with these prices, but the Dow Jones Industrial Average in the early 90s had broken above 3,000 after the 87 crash, and people were like, what's going on? And then in 1995, it took off, went from 4,000 up to almost 12,000. That was on the Dow. So don't be dismissive when on markets like this, that all you need to do is really assert, are these verifiable markets? Or is this a scam? Not a scam. I think that was laid to rest last cycle. So then how am I going to incorporate this into my portfolio going forward, and with some ideas of where it will go? Because I agree with Ponzi's statement from the beginning, is that there should be a sizable portion of your portfolio that is that holds. It's a more of a long-term swing style. Hold it. You want to trade it, take 30% of your money, your investment money, and use that for trading, but um, develop a more core portfolio, waiting for pullbacks, maybe adding on 4-hour retracements like we have currently with Bitcoin, and then really riding it with the intention to have a longer term uh, portfolio to keep something in through these times. I don't know. Do you have a preference? Do you have like are you mostly a holder, trader, or what kind of percentage do you do that on?
So at the beginning, I was doing a little more trading in the cycle when we weren't really moving too much. I was investing um, at the time, but now I've switched mostly towards holding for now because I've made some substantial gains at the beginning of the cycle and wanted to be a little bit more risk conscious. So I was early to AI, if you remember. So sending some of those that I got, I'm just holding in spot, and then I have money set aside for any dips if we can get them to buy before the or after the halvening. But I am still doing around like, I don't know, around 10% or so of my portfolio, if not a little less for trading at the moment. And with trading, I mean, if you can catch the narratives, you can grow it pretty fast as well. So ultimately, I'm trying to use my trade-in profits to go back into investments for the long term.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, I mean, I kind of do that too, where take short-term gains and add more to the Bitcoin bag, a little more to the Bitcoin bag. I have a lot more conviction now with Bitcoin. Michael Saylor has been absolutely proven true, and I'll just follow him to I'll follow Michael Saylor to the end of the decade is just the thought, and we'll see what happens. But those kind of guys putting those type of bets, staking their lives on it. I can follow that. That's big money. Um, any you got one or two that altcoin, or any ideas you could share that?
Some of my
Um,
favorites,
yeah,
or Well, a couple of my favorites have already moved up a lot, but my current favorite right now is Ondo Finance. It's still already moved up a decent amount, but that is the real world asset coin, and they got like Larry Fink in their pocket for the most part. So I'm looking at big money, and I'm looking for things that are going to pump harder this cycle. And so far, the three things in my eyes that have proven it have been you have AI, you have real world assets that you have BlackRock now talking about bringing real world assets on chain and tokenizing them. And then you also have meme coins, unfortunately. Um, I am never a huge meme coin guy, but after last cycle, I submitted to it this cycle, and I have some of my portfolio in meme coins, and it's honestly probably performed the best, even a little more than my AI bags that I have bought. So those are like the three things I'm focusing on right now. Ondo Finance being the main real world asset coin. There was actually a bat that I first entered on down around 20 cents when it first came out. It put a bad structure in, and I was bullish on it. And a lot of these newer coins that release like this, where they do have a good company, they have a good back end, a team. You know who the team is. They're not anonymous. Um, these are the things I'm looking at, and they'll put harmonics in very like at the very beginning of the chart where I'll start to enter some. I mean, Jupiter was one of them. Jupiter has to do with Solana, and Solana was doing well. So I was looking at Jupiter at the beginning. Yep, that was the bat down around 20 cents when I first started paying attention to Ondo.
There's Ondo. Let me get you. I'll pull up Jupe here in a second.
And Jupiter had a Gartley down there. I was with uh, I have been looking at a bunch of these coins with one of my friends, Vega, who's a very good investor as well, and he's kind of helped with my thesis on these spot bags and holding a little bit more versus trading a ton because we're entering the cycle. I obviously still going to trade with my patterns and everything, but even Jupiter had, I think it was like a 4 hour Gartley or something at the beginning.
There you go.
It was somewhere back there at the bottom.
45, and it was a perfect. There was a 2 there.
Yep.
4
I
hours.
think my stream's a little behind, but yeah, it was
bit.
on the 4 hour. So yeah, a lot of these coins like that fit the narrative. You see Solana going up a lot. This is a coin that is used to trade on the blockchain where people will swap their money from Solana into some of these meme coins that they have. I actually used this thing last cycle. And so paying attention to some of these things where they have good projects just now getting released, where a lot of them wait until the cycle starts and money starts coming in to release. These are some of the coins I'm looking at with good companies, and they don't have people that have held the bag through all of last cycle, where you're going to have a bunch of sell pressure the higher you get. Like some of them, you can look at, I mean, even Neo back in the previous cycles, that one was supposed to be the Ethereum killer, and that one didn't go back to all-time high, and a lot of them won't. So I'm looking at some of these new coins with less sell pressure. They have most of their tokens released or supply that they have. So, and then paying attention to that stuff. But yeah, Ondo Finance is my biggest bag other than Bitcoin at the moment. So that's going to be my main one. And then I'm looking at other things like other blockchains that are emerging that potentially have potential, like layer ones. But those are the main narratives I'm looking at is the layer ones, real world assets, meme coins, and then AI.
Nice.
And then maybe later down the road when those go up, maybe I'll expand some of it down the risk curve. But for now, I don't want to be too risky when you have some of these coins that still have a lot of movement to go at the moment.
Yeah. I think there's the one area that didn't pop off yet is gaming, and I'm wondering why that things like Avalanche, that's a real beautiful chart, but I really felt like that could be a big one.
Gaming's my one right after all of those I named, but it just hasn't seen any movement yet. I feel like it's still going to have its time, but yeah, gaming's one I'm eyeing as well.
Nice. That's fantastic. Um, so any final thoughts, comments you want to share with the crew? Anything you want to share about what you're doing? Again, guys, get over to Twitter. Let me pull up your page again. I really appreciate you taking your time. And he's got some things he's going to be rolling out. You're doing a copy trade service at the moment too. Did
Yeah,
I see that?
I'm currently doing that at the moment, but I'll probably be mostly focused on just undervalued assets at the moment, which is where I'm kind of shifting my focus. That's what I've been focusing on the most, is looking more of, okay, if we're gonna have AI go go off a lot for real world assets, seeing what coins on there that maybe have good companies and people running them, that we might be able to find some good tokens for later in the cycle where you can just buy and hold them. That's going to be my main one, but obviously using the harmonics for entries on those, on some of the lower time frames to find some good entries for those. But that's what I'm focused on the most right now. Feel free to follow me, and of course, guys at Lieutenant Ponzi, and feel free to reach out. I mean, I love teaching the harmonics to the best of my ability, but obviously the books are all on harmonictrader.com, and I would suggest reading them if you haven't, guys. I know most of the people here have, but there's a lot of people from my Discord server as well, and that are just now learning them, and they're starting to understand them. So
Yeah,
it's cool to see.
I love the shark. You did a shark post. I saw that for real
Yeah,
fun. I love that though. But yeah, yeah, check him out, everybody over at Lieutenant Ponzi, please. And everyone else. Look, if you're looking for the other source material, like I said when I started, it's all as the basic member over at Harmonic Trader, and you guys, all the PDFs are free. So, and there's a reason why I did this is because of a lot of the nonsense I ran into about 10 years ago. People who were selling my stuff for a premium, I said, screw you. We're going to make it free. Take the premium out, knock those people out. So start there and follow the ponds. I like to call you the ponds. And
that's fine.
let's bring it together. Really, let's get like for this next 6 months to come or so. So, my friend, thank you. It's been really enjoyable. Thanks for coming on the show today, and we'll get you back when Bitcoin gets above 102.
Sounds good. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, everybody. Good luck out there.
All right, everyone, give him a shout out. Send him off proper. Thanks again. You take care, buddy. We'll be in touch.
All right, Scott. Have a good one.
Too. Awesome. Really great conversation. And I really want to do that more. Bring some more folks in and expand out the harmonic pattern community. It's everybody's welcome as long as you're willing to do the work. So that's what I have for today. We'll be back on Thursday. Harmonic Pattern Podcast number 300. So that's really something. I'm going to have some special giveaways for number 300, special features, maybe a couple beers. Let's see. But until then, everybody, have a great one. We'll catch you on the next session. As always, go get them. Talk to you soon. If you have any questions, reach out to me over at harmonictrader.com.